It's not going to happen for a while.
So we're looking at July 6th as some sort of perhaps partial.
You see the Free Frank proposal?
No.
They propose buying out all non-attorney staff, a week's severance for every year with the firm.
My son's wife, they just said, work from home until 2021.
I've heard other places.
There's a place in Princeton, Biomedica, they just said, work from home.
Yeah, it's like,
And she lives in New York City, so she was like, I'm fine.
Yeah.
It's not great,
that's
but...
how it's looking, like, 2021 is the magic date.
Oh, you know what we can do?
It's
You
crazy.
just turn the speakers down.
That's what I'm doing.
What's that?
We can turn them down. I'm talking about in the room. You get in there.
We put our masks on.
No, you don't have to. I'm the only one on video.
Okay.
Turn the speakers down in the room.
I hasn't.
But you weren't wearing your mask last year. This is just symbolic.
Yeah. Keeping it?
Do you want us with or without masks?
Jake,
Well, if we're not on camera, who cares?
Oh, yeah?
I spoke with him, they feel like, I said, Jake, where have you been?
Wait, where'd you see it?
I wrote Jake, I said, Jake, I haven't seen you around, you haven't told me anything, what's going on? And he said, John, I got furloughed.
What a shame.
But you guys were advertising revenue.
What's that?
So precipitously. It
goes from green to red.
That's why you have to see.
Is that better?
Charlotte, like, watch out.
Counts better now.
It seems like.
I saw Jake had one article, like last week or
He
so.
said he helps out a little bit on a voluntary basis, even though he doesn't get paid.
What a good person.
He started on the Atlantic
Charlie
Story.
had him copied.
That's not...
I don't know if they brought him back, but as of last week, he told me.
I don't want to do just into the room.
No.
Yeah, it was
Nice
right
guy.
So
in
whatever he's doing,
at
he's
the-
doing it great.
Aw.
All right, Judy, let me know when we're going to start.
We'll watch, he's probably a millionaire.
Okay, we are good. We are on.
Good evening and welcome to the Township of Bedminster regular meeting of the Township Committee. And this is the first time that the Township Committee is all together in a room, albeit socially distant from each other. So I think last time was the last budget meeting.
Yep.
That was
Sunday.
a Sunday in March. Right. So it's good to see everyone in person again as you're spread out around. And I will recognize that. We'll just do a quick roll call. Committeeman Stevenson.
Present.
Committeeman Hickey.
Here.
Committeewoman Moreski.
Here.
Committeewoman Fernandez.
Present.
So everyone is here. Recognize that we are present and accounted for. Ms. Sullivan, may we please have the Open Public Meetings Act?
Yes,
statement?
sir. Adequate notice of this meeting of the Township Committee was sent to the Courier News in Somerville and to the Burnsville News in Whippany, also sent to all subscribers, and then posted here at the Municipal Building as of January 16th, 2020.
Great, thank you. Please join me in standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We did that much better in person than we were doing remotely on Zoom, so we were, all had the right pace. As we've been doing for the last several meetings, we'll have a moment of silence for Patrol Sergeant Alex Reed Patterson. It is June 15th, and on the Somerset County Health page, you'll also recognize that Bedminster still is showing as 39 COVID positive reported confirmed cases and 5 fatalities. So a moment of silence for Sergeant Patterson and for those who are suffering with COVID-19. Thank you. So we have 2 minutes to approve. That's the June 1, 2020 regular Township Committee meeting and the June 1, 2020 closed session meeting. Are there any comments to the meeting minutes that have not otherwise already been provided to Ms. Sullivan? If not, can we have a motion to approve those minutes?
So moved.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, permits and raffles. So there is one permit raffle, and this is a permit. And Ms. Sullivan, it's
You all
not
have
on
a
the
copy.
agenda, but this was a late entry. So let's,
Uh-oh. We just lost
we just
Mr.
lost the
Coates.
permittee, applicant.
I don't know what happened to him. I just texted him.
So did he change his mind?
I don't think so.
He just texted me saying he's trying to reconnect.
Okay. Oh, here he comes. The Beastmaster is back.
Sorry about that.
Okay. Can you?
Applicant, so John Coates is making an application for a special use permit. Paul Ferraro was emailing me earlier. Paul was looking to see whether or not this would apply under the township-wide special use permit that we approved at the last meeting. And Paul's thought was that it did not apply squarely there. So this would be a special use permit that would require authorization from the Township Committee. Mr. Coates, you want to walk us through your application?
Sure. Apologies for any extraneous noises coming into my computer. We'd like to have one food truck at a time, not necessarily one dedicated truck. But it could be, for example, the Bedminster Pizza pizza oven cart, or the Point Move barbecue at different times. But on various days, it might be a different food truck, but it would be one food truck at a time. We're not saying that we want to have it every day or plan to have it every day, but we would like to have one on a fairly regular basis, certainly weather permitting. I'm somewhat indifferent as to where the food truck is located. There is plenty of outdoor space on the property to accommodate in a city with city public benefit.
So this is at the Old Farm Cidery on 206, so everyone is familiar with the location. When you came before the Land Use Board, your site plan approval indicated no food that you guys would be selling, but that there might be some food associated with the tasting room, which I think, remember, was, you said cheese and crackers or something along those lines. So Judy, we gonna, Paul, do we have any comments from Paul on this issue?
All right, I'm gonna have to share my screen to get that.
And John, you were in discussion with Mr. Ferrero earlier today?
I'm having trouble with the audio, but are you talking to me?
Yes.
I did have a conversation with Mr. Ferrero today.
Basically, yeah, I don't have it on this computer. Basically, Paul sent me an email earlier today. Maybe I can find it on my phone. Stating that Mr. Coates already has a special use permit under the town-wide permit to have outdoor seating for at the cidery. However, he's asking for a food truck, which he thought that should be like a second one. We do ask the Board of Health normally inspects the food trucks, and the fire inspector also inspects the food trucks, but it's usually for over a weekend for a special event. So this is a little bit different.
So, and John, you're saying that this would start as soon as you get the authorization from either the special use permit or follow-up from either Paul Ferraro or from the Board of Health, and that once that was in place, this would be year-round?
Yeah, I would like it to be, again, weather permitting. Let me step back and put a little bit of perspective on this. My view for the rollout of Burnt Mill Cider, it has been and continues to be that we do not want to offer food or serve food or touch it in any way. My philosophy has always been that it's better left to the experts. And so our thinking has been having the option for a food truck to provide a food option for the customers would be a welcome addition on that property. It can be, in my view, it's something that can be done in a manner that doesn't in any way endanger the public safety. It's tucked away. If you go up to the side of the building, it just isn't meant to be a prime feature of the overall property. But we do want that option to be made available to the customer.
So this is, and so you've got your tasting operation will be starting hopefully very soon. And the food truck is there for folks who are coming to the tasting. If they want to buy something from a truck, from a food truck, they have that option there. This is not something that this is not a service or something that you are providing to the folks who are coming exclusively for your tasting.
Right, this is, and since we're only going to have the tasting room open 4 days a week, I should also say this is, the food truck will only be allowed to be on the property when the tasting room is open to the public. So this, in a way, is I don't make any money off of this. Initially, I'll probably have to pay to attract these food trucks to come. But it's really just a service that we're trying to provide in a way to our customers. And we're not giving away food. They're still going to have to pay for whatever food it is. But because there is no dining option within at least a mile of that facility, and we want to promote that availability of food, and also to encourage people to order for delivery or bring their own food, then this just makes it a little bit easier for them to do that.
So do we have a running list of food trucks that are inspected and sort of approved and on the good list, put that in air
Yes, we do.
quotes? Right?
Yes.
So could we do something like, so long as the food carts are already on the approved list that we can authorize them to go up there, so we don't have to keep getting
So we
involved?
have
and-
several food trucks that come to us, they do events throughout the season at various locations here in town. They get a permit at the beginning of the year, they get inspected, and they're set to go.
And that one permit is sort of town-wide, feel free
Yeah,
to distribute in the
they
town?
pay a fee for the year.
Okay. I mean,
And then I think that's but that is by food truck. So if there is if a new food truck wants to come around, they would have to get inspected, they'd have to pay the fee.
It's per food truck, yes.
right,
Yes.
so I was just thinking the way to, if we're on board with this, the way to sort of give it as much flexibility as possible is that sort of work off of the approved list so that John knows that it's okay to have XYZ food truck up there, they've already been blessed, it's already been through our approval process, and then he can
Yes,
just...
but if a new food truck, if he wants to get a new food truck or they're not available, that food truck, the new food truck would still have to be inspected.
Yes.
Before they can do anything.
Right.
Right.
So I don't know that I would want to limit it to that, I think and just my concern is that, does the location become a destination almost exclusively for the food truck rather than folks coming there for the cidery, for Burnt Mill Cidery?
Leave it to the applicant to...
Right, you hope not, I mean, because that's where I was going with the first question, which is this a service that you're providing? Folks are coming to the cidery, by the way, you've got the barbecue truck or something there, for something to eat as you're going through the tasting room. On 206, you've got the weenie
wagon, yeah.
Weenie wagon.
It's on center blocks right now.
Yeah, right, that's right, yeah, that's less than a mile, John. So
Maybe I can address that a little bit. There are two thoughts that come to mind. The first is that we are going to limit it to one food truck only at a time. But, we don't want this to be a food truck festival. It's not meant to attract people just because of the food. Some people may come primarily, they may choose to come because they really like food from that food truck. But, I'd also mention that I plan to have more than one over time, so it's not going to be basically quasi-permanent location like the Weenie Wagon or Cisco Brewery up in Kentucky, if you've ever been there. Those food trucks haven't moved in years. So, not that I have a plan to have a rotation, but I wouldn't expect. Right now, I haven't gotten a single taker to agree to come.
Right.
But, so it may be hard to get a rotation, but I'm of the belief that variety is the spice of life. So it really will, and I'm going to be inclined to try things out and see if that, depending on customer feedback, seeing what is better received versus others. So I don't think you're going to see any, stagnancy in the turnout.
Yeah, just from a practical perspective, I think those of us who've been involved in Fall Fest or through the farmers market or other activities where, we've considered food trucks, when they're showing up, they want to know that they're selling $500 minimum before they'll even think about going. So, just as you said, you might have to pay for these guys to show up first before that gets established. So that, and I do put that back into the context of to make sure that the folks are there to visit Burnt Mill Cidery rather than being there for a food truck. And so, here, let's open it up for questions. Committeewoman Reski?
Just as an observation, there's a little brewery out in Pennsylvania, Weyerbacher, who has a tasting room, and they do a tour through their little brewery. And they have food trucks there on a regular basis. They rotate them in and out. And the people that I've seen there are there to drink the beer. They're not necessarily there for the food truck. And kind of like you guys, you're out of the way, so is this brewery. They're really off the beaten path. So it's the destination for the beer, it's not the destination for the food truck. And knowing where your cidery is, I'm not sure that people will be driving up your beautiful long driveway to get to that food truck. I think they want to come up to see your cidery. Is that how you see it?
Yes, sir.
All right.
Okay, so I agree with Renee, but I also think that that's a nice outing for somebody to say, okay, we're gonna go to the cidery, and there's gonna be a food truck there. So that is almost like an attractive reason to want to go there, so I think that actually is a win-win. I'm not concerned at all. If the food trucks are inspected and approved, if you can get them to come, I'm for it.
Yeah, I mean, again, I support it, obviously. I think it's also a good idea to have a food truck on site if people are consuming alcohol, so it helps water that down in the blood levels and all that, but we'll assume everybody's being responsible at the time, but I don't think that hurts at all. To give the applicant as much flexibility as possible, I would just say that, make sure that we're pulling off the roster of folks who have been vetted. If there's a new one, it's obvious. Are we saying that if there's a new food truck, they would have to go get vetted and inspected? Right. But once that happens, then they're on the list.
Yeah.
So as long as we're pulling off the list.
But you don't have to do that, because they can't show up anyway.
That's right.
They can't show up.
Okay.
They can't sell food in Bedminster unless they've gone through the licensing and permit approval.
Okay.
So each food truck has its own issue.
Right, but I was, for the application of, I'd like to have a food truck, and I'm not identifying what food truck to have, to tie it back to some sort of baseline, to say so long as they've been through the channels and they've been properly inspected as revealed on our list. It just gives everybody peace of mind of what we're talking about, that's all.
Okay.
You sort of have an undefined food truck here, that's all. But I like the idea, I think it's great, and I wish you the best of luck.
Thank you. Thank you. Can I add something to your point? It certainly is makes a lot more sense for a food truck that is already paid for the food truck permit fee in Bedminster, which lasts for 12 months. Makes a lot more sense for them to consider doing something like this. And I've actually been calling down that list today. You can certainly call that, but that's it certainly would be easier for them, less of a lift to justify taking a shot at the Broken Hill Stadium.
Councilman Hickey?
Mr. Coates, I applaud your creativity as a small business owner, as a startup entrepreneur. Look, I think it's worth a try, right? It's a special use permit. It only runs for 12 months. You're going to learn as you go along. And if there are issues that arise that are troubling you or us, then we can always revisit it in the future. I applaud your efforts to attract customers to your new business. Well done.
Okay, so I have the copy of the special use permit. So under conditions, any participating food truck must be permitted or licensed through the Board of Health.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Board of Health, and depending on whether if it's an ice cream truck, obviously they're not cooking, but if it's someone who's cooking inside the truck, they're also vetted by the fire inspector.
So any participating food truck must have appropriate license approval from Board of Health, fire official, or any other Bedminster licensing Agent, is there anything else did Paul raise any other concerns about location? Did he want to review a plan as to where they'd be set up in relation to the...
Yeah, I think John left a location to be determined by Paul and any other, inspectors reviewing the application.
Okay.
Let me see what else I have from Paul.
So I'm just going to write location to be approved by Bedminster
He will be, okay.
Township Engineer.
He put some, okay, he's saying, he wants it for repetitive use, for certain events, but this is more part of an expansion of the cidery use. There was also, it was not so much a food, originally for the approval for the cidery, it was more of cheese and crackers and small food items rather than a food truck. So I think it's better to have it, this is from Paul, to have a special use permit that puts bounds around the use, for example, a single truck, since it could get out of hand if multiple trucks are permitted. So that's the comments from Paul.
Okay, so I'm putting location to be approved by Bedminster Township Engineer and/or fire official. And second, any participating food truck must have appropriate license approval from Board of Health, fire official, and/or any other Bedminster licensing agent. So with those conditions, may we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Ms. Moreski?
Second.
Mr. Stevenson? All in favor?
Aye.
You got your special use permit.
Thank you, John.
When are you starting?
Thursday.
Drove by your place today, I love your sign.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Good luck.
I was very excited to get that up. We'll be opening on Thursday.
Did you meet
Take
people
my
list
growler
of
up
approved
there.
food trucks today?
She did. I've been calling
Okay,
food trucks.
okay.
It's amazing. As an aside, I don't want to keep you guys, but it's amazing the conversations I've had with food trucks today. These guys are not at all worried about business. So I guess business is good for some of these guys.
And we'll see you at the farmers market in July.
Very soon.
Okay.
We're going to have cans. We have a canning date scheduled June 29th. So we'll be ready to sell first week in July.
Okay, great. Thank you, John.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Good luck, John.
Thank you.
So, usually this is about the time we start bringing the COVID discussion, but we'll open it up for public comments. We're doing one public comment session. So now is the opportunity that we open, in this case, the Zoom microphone to the public for any comments they may have. So, Ms.
The
Sullivan?
only member of the public I have on right now is Mr. Zavalik from Burnsville News. Charlie, do you have any comments or questions?
So if a member of the public has any wishes to make a statement, please indicate on Zoom, either by raising your hand or by indicating in the chat box.
Yeah, I'm not seeing anything.
Okay, let's proceed to monthly report discussion by subcommittee chair, and we will start with Committeeman Stevenson.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, everybody. No updates on Historic Pres, meeting coming up later this month. On Public Works, we've got the dog park. We got signage up there now. They're open for folks to use, but we're not sanitizing the gates or any of the facilities. There's signage to use at your own risk, so to speak. But we thought that it was appropriate to start that and get that back up and running, thanks to Judy and Robin for the signage. And then on our basketball courts at Pluckman Schoolhouse Park, they're basically done. The rims and nets are being covered for being able to be used, because we were looking for direction from the state, and I guess it's probably about time to throw it out to the group here. What do you think about when we should go about opening that and, letting folks go down and use those facilities? Again, with signage perhaps that, using it at your own risk, and reminding folks to wash their hands and use sanitizer and all that stuff.
Basketball's a tough one, right? I mean, I was even driving to the meeting tonight on the radio, just heard some discussion about the governor's opening of practice for non-contact practice sports, but at the same time, also discussion of opening youth sports up for competition. And I thought that June 22nd was the date for, I believe it was golf, tennis, and it may even have included baseball and softball. Basketball was falling into another tier, and then football into a tier beyond that. And it sort of indicated that basketball would be coming around maybe June 22nd or July 6th. And which is just sort of interesting, because basketball is the sport where you're in someone's face. Everyone is, they're all breathing in very close proximity. I'm not sure if we're expect to see better guidance coming out of the state. I'm not sure if Robin has anything, or...
I know Robin has been pursuing the state to get some additional guidance, because it's not clear based on what was handed down today.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I can certainly, in my mind, lay out why golf or tennis or baseball could be considered different than a basketball or a football where you're on each other. But we're also, and look, we're splitting hairs. I don't think you can say we're open, but come down here and shoot and don't play. I mean, obviously, that's not realistic, but I do think folks are looking for outlets, but maybe we just hit the pause button for another couple of weeks and see what Trenton says.
Well, the courts do look great, so... to DPW and John Nance, I think they did a very nice job. I think we need better guidance from the state and clear guidance. Those are my thoughts. Gina, Renee?
Yeah, basketball is kind of a semi-contact sport, and if you're going by the ideas of the process to keep people still away a little bit longer, I don't have a problem with waiting maybe another couple weeks to make sure everybody stays safe, but I do want it to happen as quickly as possible. I know the kids want to get out there.
Right.
What about a sign that just says, grand opening coming shortly or something like that, so they know that we're aware that it's not open and it's on our mind, and it's not just, in the rearview mirror, we're very much aware of it, but we're waiting for the guidance.
I think that's a great idea.
Okay.
I know the rec centers are getting phone calls about when the pools are opening up, so if we could do a sign to let them know, like you said, that we're talking about it, that it's coming, I think that might make some people feel pretty good.
Yeah, it's not forgotten, right?
Yeah.
I agree the courts look great. But as far as whether it's a contact sport or not, soccer is open, and soccer is also a contact sport. You're on top of people, but so what's to say? Is it because you're using your hands? I don't know. So I guess I'll just wait on directions from the powers that be, because I have no idea, to be perfectly honest.
Well, I think that's the point too, right? We're not experts in what's going on out there, so we just sort of have to rely on those that are the experts, right?
Exactly.
Sanitize the basketball every time you touch it.
But the courts do look lovely, and I absolutely think we should have a grand opening when we open.
Yeah, and along those lines too, I've been talking, Bill Rosen, who's been very active in our rec programs and served on a bunch of boards, and he was sort of talking about the same thing, like, do we get some sort of community event down there? And again, this is all subject to being able to do it. But to roll out, some organized games, if you will, or some organized pickup games, and sort of have the community come together there and celebrate the opening of the park, that's something maybe we could, if we feel like we could do it, start noticing it and talking it up, and then make it an event that we actually, even do like a ribbon cutting or something there,
John, on the paving at River Road Park, for the parking lot itself?
River Road Park?
I'm sorry, Burton Mills. I'm sorry, Pluckman Schoolhouse Park.
It's coming along, but it's going to be time consuming right now. Still waiting on a contractor to do the swap of materials and just getting that all in there. And trying to work around, I guess the Art Association, I see a lot of cars in there now, so they've been back and forth to someplace, but, so, I think the July 6th or whatever date was something I had heard a while ago, and I think that's a good target date to shoot for. I don't think the 22nd's.
But the paving for the parking lot, you don't see that happening in the next month or so?
Next month, yes.
In the next month, okay. Because that would be very nice to have
Right.
the freshly paved lot in conjunction with the opening. John, in your estimation, how the dog parks fared having had no use, or should have been no use over the last several months?
Grass came back a little bit, so they seem to be okay.
It did seem that River Road, the dog park there, the grass came back. I'm not sure about Burnt Mills.
Burnt Mills Park, what we did is we took the volleyball stand that we had when we swapped out the volleyball stand to the new sand. We actually took the sand and put it in the dog park because it was very wet. It's always been very wet there, and I have not had any complaints whatsoever about that. So the sand is actually in that dog park.
Okay.
It seems to be working
All right,
out.
good. All right, thank you, John.
Sort of go.
Anything else, Doug?
Nope, that's it.
All right, Committeeman Hickey.
Mayor, thank you. Good evening, all. A couple quick updates. Rec, summer camp will open on Monday, July 6th. Robin's hair is on fire right now.
Oh, yeah.
She's got 3 weeks in counting to figure out all the state regulations and make sure that we're COVID compliant, so that work is going on right now. As Doug alluded to a moment ago, the Rec Committee is looking to do some additional summer activities to engage the community. Bill Rosen being one, who is looking to organize a 4th through 8th grade pickup league for basketball. Again, it has to be compliant to the rules and regs, and we're trying to figure those out right now. And just to add to the conversation from before, Robin will reach out to Dr. Agathis from the Board of Health if she needs help in interpreting some of the stuff that's coming down from the state. So we'll try to figure it out all together.
We also want to reach out to Dr. Reddy, Jim Norgalis over at Somerset County Department of Health, since they are our health department, and they've also been interfacing with the state on a lot of the COVID requirements.
Will do, absolutely. There's another potential activity they may be organizing, which is a drive-in movie night. So more information on that to follow. Board of Health, no pending applications, so this week's meeting has been canceled. Board of Ed, there was the 8th grade clap out today. Your Facebook feed is probably filled with smiling photos, including Daniela Fernandez. Congratulations. Well done. The Bedminster School virtual graduation will be this Friday. The in-person graduation will be on July 6th. And incidentally, Berners High will have a graduation parade on Thursday, starting at 5:30. I know they're going to have an in-person graduation to follow in July. Bedminster School is forming a reopening committee. More to follow on that. There's no details yet. And they, along with everyone else, are looking forward to the repaving of the parking lot, which was a nice success story in terms of us getting together with them and having them join the Morris County Co-op. And it's a way that I think all of us, all our taxpayers, can save some money. John, do we have you heard on a date on that yet?
No.
No.
We can talk offline on that.
Sounds good. And then finally, some congratulations are in order to Susie Stevenson, the new Board of Ed president.
All right, congratulations.
Well done. Bedminster School is in good hands. Mayor, did you want to do COVID updates at this point?
Let's do COVID updates now.
All right, so-
As we go through subcommittee reports.
So I'll talk about the food pantry very briefly. We are now in our 10th and final week of the Bedminster Food Pantry. To date, we have provided food and other necessities to over 630 families. We felt it was time to phase out the food pantry given the expiration of the governor's executive order for stay at home, a steady decline in our numbers, more people returning to work, and the need to return to normal operations within the municipal building itself. We put a notice out via Community Pass and on Facebook, indicating that tomorrow is our last day, which will be a pickup day. After tomorrow's pickup, we'll donate whatever remaining food there is to our sister food pantries in Peapack, Gladstone, and Burnsville. And any other food we have, we will give down to the Somerset County Food Bank. Did want to give a shout out to Mrs. Perrone, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, but she and her daughter donated 20 ShopRite gift cards, which was a very generous donation, a very meaningful donation, because we provide non-perishables, but there's a lot of items that families need to obtain, and they get them through gift cards to ShopRite and King's and others.
Great.
As always, a special thanks to my colleagues here on the TC and within the township for all the help and support throughout these 10 weeks. My partner in this endeavor, Robin, has been huge and has been a great organizing force and factor, but also Elena Martin, Janine DeLeon, Judy Sullivan, and Sarah Hausman. And as I just want to, I know I repeated it before, but I want to say again, our biggest thanks is to the Bedminster residents. I sent out a note last week, and I mentioned that, they showed up each and every day and kept our pantry shelves stocked with food and gift cards. And what those donors didn't see were the smiles and appreciation on the faces of the families that picked up. And as always, the Bedminster community rose to the challenge, and I thank them from the bottom of my heart. And that's all I have, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Colin. So, just a quick observation that even as the folks who were utilizing the food pantry was diminishing from the first week till this week, the donations and the generosity of the residents did not diminish.
Unbelievable.
In fact, right out there in the vestibule, it is as jam-packed with food today as it was a few weeks ago. So it is just, a testament to the Bedminster residents. Once again, we thank them all for their contributions, greatly needed. And we hope that with the reopening, the need itself will diminish quickly. So thank you all for those who worked in processing the pantry. Committeewoman Mareski.
Good evening, Mayor. Good evening, everyone. I have no updates on my committees. JBH will be meeting this coming Wednesday, the 17th. But just a quick note, we had an email sent to Town Hall. We had one of our neighbors in one of our Hills neighborhoods was a little confused with an issue in her neighborhood, and Mayor reached out to me to ask me to handle that. And I wasn't quite sure at first what the neighbor was confused about, so I reached out and did a conference call with two of the women and got some more information. As you guys know, I was on my condo board for a long time, so I kind of knew where they were coming from, and even though the town really can't provide too much of any kind of positive action, I knew that the place to go was the NMA President, Jeff Leonard. And I reached out to him and I gave his name to one of the residents, and between all of us, Jeff got us straightened out in the right direction, squared away the confusion, and solved the problem. And it was very easy in one conversation and one email. So if anybody else has a question, please reach out and we'll do our best to get the answers for you.
Great. So Renee, you are a tremendous resource in the operation of the associations and masters. So thank you very much for jumping on that.
Anytime.
Anything else?
Welcome. Nope, that's it.
That's it?
I'm all done.
Okay.
Okay. I wanted to just quickly thank, today was the 8th grade clap out and final picture for Bedminster school students who had their 8th grade year cut short. So I did want to thank John Mance, Chief Rock, Superintendent Giordano, Principal Swan, and all the staff that really helped make that go off without a hitch. So that was a great experience for the kids. It really boosted their morale today. So I just wanted to make sure that was on the record, that we're very grateful to all those people. I have a Fall Fest meeting tomorrow. I have to say that the farmers market, the way that went off just so smoothly, everyone was social distance, and the way how many people came and went through the farmers market really is giving the Fall Fest committee a lot of hope that there could be a Fall Fest. So that was really good to see firsthand how that all played out, and with proper planning that there could be in-person Fall Fest. So that's great. So we have a meeting tomorrow to discuss that. And I just wanted to thank everyone who came out to the blood drive. We had 134 people signed up to donate, 132 people showed up, which is very rare. Usually you have a lot of cancellations or no-shows, but because it was in honor of Sergeant Patterson, I think that people made the effort to come out and show up and donate blood. And not everybody who showed up could donate because of low iron or what have you, but we collected over 102 pints of blood, which can save up to 300 or more than 300 lives, so that's great. And I have a text message from Brandy Patterson, who is Sergeant Altrique Patterson's wife, that I wanted to read, if that's okay. She said, "This has been such a challenging time for my family, and I appreciate everyone's kindness and generosity so much. My husband was very special, but now I see how he has touched many lives beyond just our family. I am thankful that his legacy is continuing on. Thank you to the Township of Bedminster, the Bedminster Police Department, as well as the American Red Cross for organizing the Sergeant Patterson number 33 blood drive. Thank you to everyone that came out to donate or to just support Treat. Beyond grateful, Brandy Patterson." So that was very nice.
That's great.
And that's all.
That's great. So, before I get into my committee reports, I do want to actually just transition from Gina's remarks and Brandy's expression regarding her husband. So, as you all know, this has been a couple crazy weeks here in the country, and there's been a lot of demonstrations regarding the police, and it made me think of Sergeant Patterson, and not just because that he was an African-American police sergeant here in Bedminster, but because the way he relished the position of reaching out and working with the Bedminster community. And I go back to when I was sitting on this dais, and Judy, you may be the only other person in the room who is in the room with me now, who was in the room with me back then.
Because it still sticks with me as well.
And he just talked about, and this was in his sergeant promotion, and he talked about the outreach to the community, being able to walk through the hills and say, "Hey, how you doing?" Going into the shops, and he was more interested in working with the community, being the face of the Bedminster Police, more so than issuing tickets. We're going to get pulled over. He probably wants to get pulled over by Sergeant Patterson because he was, he saw his job as working with the public. And when police are being castigated elsewhere, that was a guy who just had a smile on. If he could help you, he was interested in helping. And so I think, just this past 2 weeks made me think of how much we really miss Sergeant Patterson, and how I really wish he was here with us. But he's not. And I do want to give tremendous credit to the Bedminster Police and to Police Chief Carl Rock. So Bedminster was the subject of a lot of social media content over the last 2 weekends. One was when President Trump was supposed to arrive last week, and he did not, but social media was quite a buzz about events and happenings that were going to take place in Bedminster. Last week there were no such demonstrations or protests. This week the President did arrive, came in late Thursday and left Sunday. And other than a brief trip to West Point, he was in town, and during the weekend there were demonstrations in support of the President. There were demonstrations by Black Lives Matter and other organizations throughout really the weekend. Last one I saw was probably a small gathering Sunday evening around 5 to 6 o'clock. But everything remained peaceful. The police presence was highly visible. The Bedminster Police were well coordinated with their law enforcement partners at the county, the state, and the federal level. I had a number of conversations, both with the chief and with the prosecutor's office, and all I can tell you is that law enforcement was prepared for anything to happen. And once again, as you guys have seen with some of the statements that I issued over the last 2 weeks, along with the police chief, is that the First Amendment rights for the public to peaceably assemble is something that Bedminster has supported for years now, but also for our residents, that the protection of their safety and their property remains paramount to the Bedminster Police Department. So once again, thank you to all the Bedminster Police and to all the supporting law enforcement partners who came out to Bedminster this weekend. So everything went off smoothly and there was no trouble. The protesters were safe and the Bedminster residents were safe. So we hope that continues for as long as the free speech zone and the rest of township is being utilized for those demonstrations.
So Mayor, on that point, if I just jump in, I did hear some positive feedback from some residents over in Clucas Brook, in the neighborhood there, very, very appreciative of the no parking, stopping, standing signs that went down that road and discouraged folks from using the neighborhood there as sort of a campgrounds or camp out. So whoever idea that was excellent and very, very well received and appreciated by the residents.
Right.
Chief Ross.
Yeah, and look, Chief Rock does not get, he does not get overtime. He's a management position. And he was working nonstop throughout the week, and he was working nonstop throughout the weekend. Even made a visit or two to the farmer's market to see how things were going. So, you know, Chief did a great job, as well did all our police members who were out there. Any other comments on the policing for this weekend?
No, just to dovetail with that, you know, Chief Rock shared with me privately that he was very happy with Gina, all your work, because as he was trying to prepare for the president's arrival, he said, thank God for Gina, because Gina took that blood drive and ran with it, and it was one less thing that he had to focus on, as he was obviously overwhelmed with so many other things. So, job well done.
That's great.
Yeah, he walked in my office the next morning, he said, I love Gina for you.
And I make cookies.
Don't we all?
So, subcommittee reports. Land Use Board. Last week was the start of the planning board application for Bedminster Farms, which is a subdivision that's proposed along Lamington Road. I believe right now they're at an 8-unit subdivision, but they're contemplating a 9-unit subdivision, depending upon review of a septic, I guess, application to the Board of Health. That's been carried over, and then maybe carried over to the second week in July if they can get the Board of Health approval. Otherwise, it'll be August 6th. So that will continue. There was an application, I guess the Relocate application, which is the old Desiderios and the old Country Picnic building, but that is a Board of Adjustment matter, and Colin and I are not eligible to attend, so all I know is that it's been carried over as well, and that may recommence on July 9th, I believe. Farmers Market. So the opening day of Farmers Market could not have gone more smoothly or more positive. We believe we had over 1,000 folks coming through Bedminster to go to the farmers market. We had the band, we had these two guys there. We had an expanded complement of vendors, and it was crazy. I mean, Colin was handling parking details, and we had cars backed up to Route 202 from the River Road entrance. It was that crazy. We had a lot of volunteers out there. You know, I walked around, talked to the vendors, you know, every few minutes, and I can tell you that they did very well. They were very pleased. A number of them sold out the first day, and last week, well, I guess this past Saturday, which was their second day, we were still doing the clicker, and we ended up close to 800. So we still had 800 folks coming through the market on our second day, and frankly, I think that may become the standard for how we operate on a daily basis. We still, we're still circulating through vendors, and we're even getting calls, including as of today, from folks who want to join, and for those who are part-time, looking to expand their presence at the farmers market. So that was great to see. We'll continue to have meetings, but it really just kind of, I think, blew us all away.
Yeah.
And we knew that folks had been sitting home and were looking for something to do. And this is something, whether it's the blood drive, whether it's dump day, right? I mean, these, or going to the farmer's market, right? There's very little we can do, since so much is at the state level. But what's within our authority, what's within our discretion, if we can give our residents something to do, then that's positive. And that's why, when we have these opportunities, use them and do so responsibly. Bring your mask, wear your mask, social distance, but there are things that we can do to help our folks get through this very rough time. With that, Ms. Sullivan, please have the administrator's report.
A few items. So we've talked a little bit about the fact that we are going to be sending out estimated tax bills. There's a little notice we're going to put in with the estimated tax bills that you have in front of you. This is a draft. If there's anything you'd like to change or add, please let us know. But we do hope to get the estimated tax bills out by June 29th. And they will be due August 1st. And then once we have everything finalized, then a final bill will go out as well. The estimated bills are still due August 1st. There is a grace period until August 10th. And then, assuming that Somerset County Board of Taxation will finalize everything, the rest of the bills will be due again November 1st, February 1st, and May 1st next year. So.
And Judy, just before we leave that topic, with regard to second quarter, how are we doing on the second quarter payments?
So in with the reports, behind my report, there's a little report from the tax collector. So this was as of Friday. The second quarter was 96.61% collected. She gave you a list that will remain confidential for the moment of residents with large sums that are still outstanding. There's 8 listed there. That's a major part of what's still outstanding. The sewer utility, 50% was due by June 1st, and we are at 52%, so we're above for the sewer utility. So I think 96.6% is pretty good. We're assuming that these other 8 individuals will be coming through at some point. It is not uncommon for these same 8 individuals to be late.
And I'm just going to do some very rough math. If we go with the fact that this may be, let's see, we're still looking at about 72,000 as 1%, roughly about that. This might be, so if
I
these,
get almost about 135,000.
yeah, so if that comes in, then that should probably put us close to 98.5%. So when that money comes in, then I'd imagine we're not too far off for at least the second quarter.
Right.
Third quarter to be determined.
Judy, on your note, Is it accurate that the municipal building is still closed to the public until further notice?
So that's on my list to talk about as well. So that's on there for a little bit of discussion too. I'll skip around on my report. We had all the employees back to normal with, I have to thank Gina and our HR consultant Nancy. We sent out messages to all the employees last week. We brought everybody back today with signs, wearing masks, taking temperatures, washing hands, back to pretty regular schedule. Working well. That the police have been back, the public works has already been back, but this was for the court staff and the administration building staff. The big question I got when everybody came back today was, when are we opening to the public? And John, maybe you can help me out here. I know we've ordered large pieces of plexiglass to be installed at the 2 front counters. The tax office already has a window, but they'll be installed at the 2 front counters. And then we've talked a little bit about how it would only have one pass-through, cut-through for one customer at a time. If you've been in town hall when we're busy, you can see 4, 6, 8 people standing at the counter at one time on both sides. So we're going to have some measures with seating and signage. People will have to, wait until they're called up to the counter for their service. But I don't know if you have any ideas when you might want to be putting that in.
You gotta give me a date.
Well, did it all come?
It's all in pieces, yes.
Okay. Well, you've got a lot of stuff going on.
Too much going on.
So once that gets installed and we get proper signage around, if we'll be hoping to open. So this may be, these aren't going out till June 30th or June 29th, so these might be modified if we have better information. Okay.
Do we envision that plexiglass to be permanent or semi-permanent?
It's more permanent than not.
Okay.
Yeah, we've had issues in the past, even with a flu outbreak or other issue, and a lot of the employees are like, gee, we're really open. So I think it's probably a good idea.
It's a twofold. It also acts as a security.
Right.
It's the new normal.
The new normal,
Right.
Last Thursday, we had a pre-construction meeting for the River Road West paving project. The contractor was ready to start today, and we told him, hold on a second, he's got to get some signage up, on or before a certain date, that he's going to have some detours in place. We asked, we're putting together a draft notice to go out to all the residents along Lamatong, Janelle, and Laura Lane, and River Road West. So those will be going out as well, so that people know what to expect, for what period of time. We met with the contractor as well regarding some traffic, so he met with the police department too, to provide certain traffic control when they're out on Rattlesnake Bridge Road. So that'll be coming soon.
In conjunction with River Road West, do we have any update on Rattlesnake Bridge Road and the DOT project? So the shooting, they were shooting for to be complete by the end of June, targeting that 4th of July weekend.
So
They asked us for an extension. We said no. But I went by there a couple times this weekend, and not sure what the status of that project is.
My guess is it's gonna be done
Yeah.
by the 4th.
Okay. If the mic didn't pick that up, John Mann says it will be done by the 4th.
So on our
He's been told.
on our call, we had a Zoom meeting for the pre-construction meeting. There was a representative from the county engineering department as well as from the state DOT, and it was their projection that it was supposed to be done as John said. So if all goes as planned, no issues, we should be fine.
Okay.
The expansion of the shared municipal court with Burnett Township is moving forward, but a little bit slower than originally hoped. As you may know, Somerset County has a new assignment judge, Judge Tom Miller. He has taken over from Judge Yolanda Ciccone, who has moved on to Middlesex County in a new position there. So with Judge Tom Miller coming on board, the attorney handling this new agreement is briefing him, I think, this week, along with the Administrative Office of the Courts down in Somerville. And they're telling us we may not be ready to move forward until August 1st. So we're still hoping for July 1st, but they're telling us by the time it's all gets done, it'll be on August 1st start date.
What's required between now and a start? Is it an inspection? Is
So
it a
the
review of the
Administrative Office of
contract?
the Courts came last week, they inspected on Friday, they didn't have to walk through this building, they're fine with this building. They're looking for new signage, which we've called our sign people. They're looking for, they asked why the new file room storage area had not been constructed yet. And I said, well, we haven't received your approval of the agreement. And once we get your approval of the agreement and Judge Miller is okay with everything, well then, our Public Works Department will move forward with that construction. So I said, well, we don't have a green light. When we get a green light, we'll move forward. So that's kind of where we are on that. So, but they did do their inspection, so it's moving, yet slowly.
So is August 1st an outside date? That it should not slip past that?
Our attorney, John Bruder, is still hoping for the July 1st date. He's going to see what Judge Miller has to say about what other pieces we need to, what other things might have to be reviewed.
Okay.
So we hope to know this week.
And in the meantime, how is the court operating?
So the court has been operating, we're calling it a virtual court. Every Tuesday, they still hold court right where you're sitting, with the Zoom meeting, just like we're doing tonight. The judge meets with all the attorneys, and if there's defendants, they come on the Zoom meeting as well. She has them all timed out. They stay in the waiting room on the Zoom meeting until she's ready to hear them. And they've been moving cases quite well. And the judge usually starts the Zoom court like maybe around sometimes 9, sometimes 10, sometimes 11, depending on the docket for the day. But she's here until at least 2, 3 o'clock in the afternoon moving cases, so it's been working really, really well. She's been here for over a month doing it that way.
Doug, what's the, I know the Supreme Court came out with some guidance that applied not just to law division, but also to municipal courts as well. And it looked like they were gearing up for a reopening.
Yes.
Do you have any,
No, in fact, we were on a call the other day with one of the judges in Middlesex County, and the judge was still sort of in the dark about when it was really going to be, lights on, ready to go. They're just still making preparations for making sure, signage is there for wearing masks in all the common areas. But municipal and criminal, once the lights do go back on, those are first up. So, when it's ready to go, it's going to be cool.
It's just interesting because municipal court, you get, unlike law division, where you might have a trial.
But you're moving a mass number of cases.
You're moving a lot of, you're moving folks through a room.
There's got to be some plan to go along with that.
Yeah.
A lot of planning.
Yeah, so,
Really open that one
and
back
it's
up.
not just coming from the Supreme Court or the AOC, but also just
the
physical plant itself.
One of the orders that came through is requiring us to supply masks to everyone who walks through the door. And I can barely supply masks to
You
our
can't
own
do
staff.
it. We cannot do it.
Right.
It is, they're not
But
about.
that's what Judge Grants said we have to do.
Is it possible, and this is a little bit off topic, but in terms of flow through this room here, the emergency door, does
Yes.
that go off, or does it, can
No,
they
that
come in
opens.
here and then when they're done, go out through there?
Yes, and we've talked about that.
Yeah.
But the way that the court operates is they do everything here and they have to pay, then they go out, so it's, if they still have to pay when, there's a lot of cross traffic in that
Yes.
vestibule area.
Okay.
And you've got only one metal detector,
Right.
so then you've got to figure a way to circulate that traffic through.
Right, and to keep everybody separated, we can only have so many seats in this room. We can't be what is out here. So
So
there's a lot of,
they may have to break it up into sections of people
Yeah,
certain times, so that we don't have the abundance.
yeah, multiple calendar calls. Yeah.
so that is still in the works. I think that's all I have.
Well, back to the regular schedule. So, for this room, so just talking about the shared court, I know the idea of putting paper on the chairs, but I have a feeling that when court does open, we're going to need to get rid of these chairs and have
Right.
them 6 feet apart, because a piece of paper is not going to stop
No.
folks from
The
doing it.
the problem with that is that single chairs cannot be singled out. They have to be detached. That's an AOC requirement because they could use that as a weapon.
Right.
Sorry, did you know?
Yes, no, that is a rule. So that's why you see all the little clips on the chairs. We have to clip all the chairs together. So we were thinking, we were actually come up with some other type of covering, red or something, just so they know they
You might get the police caution tape and just,
something.
we did that with the playground. I'm just on the shared court, I do want to, thank Doug for all his work in jumping in sort of the last minute and helping get that agreement through. Bit of last minute concerns and comments that came up, and Doug really shepherded it through those last 2-3 weeks, so.
It's always the hardest at the end, but it came along great.
Yeah.
And John Bruder was great.
Yeah.
And you were great too.
Yeah, I mean, working on it for a year and then to have it stall the night of the meeting was a little tough.
It's disconcerting.
Yeah.
And we thank all our partners over at Bernardsville and PPAC Gladstone and our soon-to-be partners.
Oh, and just to
In
follow,
Berners Township.
In your pile of paperwork, there is also the contracts for the River Road West project, so you need to sign them as well. And that's all I have.
Discussion on introduced ordinances, we have none. Introduction of ordinances, we have none. Public hearing of ordinances, we have none. Consent agenda, we have 3 items on the consent agenda. Unless there is a request from a Township Committee member to pull something off the consent agenda, which you can do right now. Otherwise, can we have motion to approve the 3 resolutions on the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
This is roll call vote. Mr. Stevenson?
Aye.
Mr. Hickey?
Aye.
Ms. Moreski?
Aye.
Ms. Fernandez?
Aye.
Mayor Jenkins?
Aye.
Thank you.
We have 2 resolutions not on the consent agenda. Then the first resolution is 2020-059, authorizing the submission of a grant application to NJDOT Local Aid Program 2021 for the Black River Road Section 2 project. John, is this you or Judy?
I have nothing on that one.
Well,
I know we talked about it, but I have not seen any paperwork on it.
I haven't either, other than I got this, the local aid program is moving forward. I think there's a bit of a extension on the deadline, but Paul's office sent this down. We did talk about Black River Road, Section 2. We would do it, last time we did it in 2 sections, okay? So it was 2 different projects, so we had one grant in 1 year, and then another grant the following year to finish the whole road. So we would probably do the same thing again, but this is an actual resolution that approves the grant application to apply to the NJDOT Local Aid Program in 2021 for the first section of the Black River Road to be repaid.
But there's no, I don't know.
I don't have any costs, I don't have any other estimates.
So we're not even sure what the timing. Grant usually is a good thing that we apply for, especially if it's work that we're already proceeding.
Yeah, I don't have the total
We don't have an
grant
engineer's estimate.
application, I don't have an estimate. So,
Okay, any questions or comments regarding applying for a grant for River Road Section 2?
this is Black River Road.
Oh, I'm sorry, Black River.
Black River Road.
Oh, and speaking of Black River Road, this may come up down the road, but Mr. Brown attended the resident who lives on Black River Road with the concerns regarding the speed, again, asked about speed bumps or other traffic control, speed control measures that could be put in place. And we said we would discuss with you and with the chief when the time is appropriate, so I just want to put that on your radar screen.
So, right.
So we can come back to that another time.
Okay.
But that, for Section 2 of Black River Road, have we committed or we proceeded with anything on Black River Road?
No, this is the first we're seeing it. As John said, I don't even have an estimate of what the grant request would be, the application.
Usually we get a number from Paul, at least we have some budget idea of what that's going to be and what it's going to be worth, so we can kind of budget for next year.
Do we know,
So we have nothing at this point.
is Black River Road on the pavement management plan?
For Section 1.
Section 1.
We've got approval for that. So hopefully next year, if we get the award for Section 2, we would do both sections in one contract.
Okay.
That's the idea.
Judy, did Paul give you an indication whether this grant application is time sensitive?
Everything has been extended. So I would think, all the deadlines for everything have been extended 30, 60, 90 days. So this is normally the time that we would be doing this, so there's probably some time that we could get some more numbers from them. I mean, John hasn't even seen any estimates, so.
Any concerns with, from the Township Committee about tabling this until we get more details?
I have no objection to tabling, and I also have no objection to applying for grants.
Agreed.
More details are always good, because you don't want to waste your time and then find out.
Generally what happens is those grant applications, there's a certain amount that the state's going to give you anyway. Usually those engineers' estimates are just an estimate at that point in time. So they're going to award you what they're going to award you based on that anyway. So you can put the grant application in if you'd like.
Yeah.
We just don't have any details.
Yeah, I don't have any
on what-
details.
Is the mic picking up, John?
He can see better than I
Okay.
can.
That's got all focus.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, normally we get somewhere in the neighborhood of between 200 to 300,000 to put towards a project. They never pay for the whole project. So, I mean, based on that, we could probably, I mean, that's probably all we're going to get anyway, no matter what the cost is.
So, from our DPW and from administration, are you recommending that we pass this resolution or that we wait?
I think we need to have some little bit more information. I think there's got to be some kind of an engineer's estimate or whatever that grant application looks like. Go through it.
Okay, so if we have a general consensus to table it,
Yes.
Yes.
all right, let's hold off on Resolution 2020-059, and let's proceed to Resolution 2020-063, authorizing the hiring of seasonal employees for the Recreation Department.
It's nice, as you look through the list of folks here that are the temporary employees, you notice a lot of the names of the kids from the school. It's really neat to see the kids giving back to the community, and I think it's just another little hometown cooking, so to speak. It's nice to see.
Agreed.
And it's nice to see the kids coming up through the ranks,
That's right.
They
They had the benefit of the older kids helping them out, now they're giving back. It's great.
Yeah.
It's
It's now,
The student becomes the teacher.
And it's also fun to hear Robin tell you about the interviews.
Oh, yeah,
And how
so
these
cute.
kids are just awesome. They really hit it out of the park.
And it's also good that we have the opportunity to be doing it this year, because a couple of weeks ago, we didn't think this would be happening at all. So if there's no questions or comments, can we have a motion to approve Resolution 2020-063?
So moved?
Second. Roll call vote again, Mr. Stevenson?
Aye.
Mr. Hickey?
Aye.
Ms. Mareski?
Aye.
Ms. Fernandez?
Aye.
Mayor Jacobs?
Aye.
Thank you.
We have a motion to approve the bill list pending review of individual invoices.
So moved.
Second.
And again, roll call vote, Mr. Stevenson?
Aye.
Mr. Hickey?
Aye.
Ms. Mareski?
Aye.
Ms. Fernandez?
Aye.
Mayor Jacobs?
Aye. Discussion items. Any items that the Township Committee wants to put up for discussion and public input?
So, yeah.
Wait
is
a
this-
minute, I take that
Wait.
back. On the discussions, I think I gave you the wrong agenda. The one posted on the website has the resolution from the Freeholder Director, Chanel Robinson.
Oh, that's right.
And it is in your booklet as well. It was posted on the website. I handed you the former version. It's not on there.
Is that in, okay, so
Discussion.
this is, okay, discussion items. Okay, so I will, if I can,
Do you have an updated, I think you have an updated agenda in your book, do you? With the, has it on there?
The resolution's in here.
Okay, good.
all right, so.
Because my copy does not, but I have the old version.
So this is a resolution that was passed by the Somerset Freeholders, I believe it was last week, and I will read it into the record for Bedford Township. So the resolution is resolution of the Somerset County Board of Chosen Freeholder, should be freeholders, in recognition of the senseless death of George Floyd and in support of the call for action. Whereas we all watch in horror and disbelief the death of George Floyd while in police custody, and whereas the death of George Floyd is only the last in a long history of violence and harm brought upon people of color, and whereas following the death of George Floyd, there has finally occurred an awakening of the historic and constant mistreatment of segments of our community in this county, state, and country, as shown by the number and extent of the protests that have occurred in our cities and towns, and whereas the public seeks answers and, more importantly, solutions to this issue, and whereas the County of Somerset is committed to working towards making real, systemic, and transformational change necessary to rid our government, police, economy, and all other aspects of our society of the racism that daily harms so many of our citizens. And whereas the county's professional law enforcement officers are entrusted daily with the protection and service to our community, and they hold that responsibility highly, and their goal is to ensure this continues for all of our citizens. And whereas the County of Somerset calls upon each of its municipalities to conduct a review of all policies, especially those involving, some more typos in there, those involving public safety, to ensure that they protect the rights of minorities and are not biased towards a select segment of the population. Whereas the County of Somerset further calls for review and overhaul the review process for the handling of complaints against police or other public employees. And whereas the County of Somerset calls upon state and federal legislators to not just acknowledge the events surrounding the death of George Floyd, but to act to correct the policies and legislation that allow such actions to occur. Therefore, it be resolved by the Board of Chosen Freeholders, Somerset County, request that a copy of this resolution be served upon each municipality within the county and upon all state and federal representatives for Somerset County. So, as many of you know, I've been participating on what had been daily calls with the freeholders and other mayors and other municipal representatives throughout the county. Those calls are now done bi-weekly. And I will say that Freeholder Director Chanel Robinson gave some rather impassioned remarks a few weeks ago. And, it's important to recognize that Freeholder Director Robinson was very proud of Somerset County and its history and its dealings. And she said, this should not happen in Somerset County. And I agree that this should not happen in Somerset County, that our officers have a very high degree of training and professionalism. But all it takes is one. That's all it takes. And it can happen. So despite, all the training and everything else, it still can happen. And that's just something that, policing and civil government, such as us, need to be mindful of and take, these comments to heart. So it's something that I wanted to share with all of you, and it's something that perhaps that we continue discussions throughout the summer. So thank you, JD, for reminding me that I have to put that on there. New business. Any items for new business?
Just wanted to raise one thing, if I could, Mayor, and I had separately mentioned to some of you in the past week or so. When we were last together, we issued a town-wide special use permit for all restaurants to try to take advantage of their outdoor space. In so doing, the word around town, at least in certain limited situations, and perhaps it's wider than first thought, but is that there's a belief that they have to be done and wrapped up by 8 o'clock at night. And in speaking with some of you, perhaps that was because we were getting an edict from the state that everything had to be wrapped up by 8 o'clock. So I just think that we should perhaps clarify that position for our folks here that are running businesses, so they understand that is not the case, that you know, they can get a table seated, turn it over, and get another table served and seated, and, you know, we're here to promote, you know, turn the spigot of business back on, not to limit it. So if there's anything out there, you know, on this one point, but then the overall, the larger issues, if there's something that the folks think that we may not be looking at correctly or have overlooked, you know, we encourage folks to reach out for us. We're not here to be an impediment. We want to help businesses, and we want to see folks thriving here and doing well. So I just wanted to raise it with you, and maybe it need not be done anything through something formal, and maybe just some messaging that 8 o'clock is not a hard stop for
Absolutely. And I was sitting here writing the special use permit as we were legislating. So this board was acting in its legislative capacity to some extent, although we're issuing approval, but it's a permit that we were crafting ourselves. And I remember at one point, Paul talked about having it go to 8 o'clock or to daylight. And I remember taking the position, no. If they can do lighting, the lighting is not going to be offensive, then let them go as to whatever they need to do.
So
it for sure is not in the special use permit. Paul may have linked it with the 8 o'clock curfew when the governor still had us on a stay-at-home order, but since that stay-at-home order's been lifted, I don't believe the 8 o'clock is still in effect as a limit.
And thank you for raising the lighting issue, because that was the second comment that came back, was that, you know, if I can't have lights out there, I don't want my customers out there tripping over things and not be able to see. So they were concerned about, you know, why can't we have lights? So again, I don't have the special use permit in front of me, but if there's something in there about not having lights, I think we should revisit that. But
a lot of it was to be determined.
Yeah. So it's subject to, we left it to subject to the review of the engineer. So if the lighting can be done in a way that is not going to, as the engineer, as the expert in this, is not going to, you know, create a lighting issue, and I would imagine that in nearly all cases, it would not, based upon where our restaurants are located. To me, this isn't even an issue, that we accounted for that in the special use permit. And if that message needs to be
So how do you want to communicate that? You just want me to
I was just going to
email?
Yeah, to pick it up on what the mayor's saying, or if it's an issue, it's become, and I'm not, this is not a fault statement, it's just a factual statement, that it may be coming out from Paul's office that you can't have lights and you can't have heaters, and I know we talked about the heaters and letting it sort of burn off with the weather, but in terms of lighting and the timing, if we could just get him to not be so black and white about that issue, it's that it's not an 8 o'clock hard stop, and they can have lighting, they just need to show that it's responsible and it's safe and all that good stuff. And
if we're living with this situation, as long as we're all hearing that this may be with us through the flu season, right, into autumn, I did not want to put into the special use permit
Are we
that
putting anything
no
like
heaters were
10 o'clock,
going to be
or-
required, because frankly, if they can do it, and it can be done, and Paul can bless it, that it's being done in a safe manner, and fire official can bless it, that it's being done in a safe manner,
all for it.
do it.
Look, I think the initial comments of the board was, well, we don't know how this is going to go, so let's just use the fact that we've got good weather to test, to pilot it. And if it's working well, we'll make tweaks down the line. So, I get why I say no heaters right now, because I think we said that, we're not going to need them. But it seems that at least one of the businesses in town thought it was a little too restrictive to go through the effort of a special use permit when they wouldn't be able to turn tables over.
Right.
So I think it's, again, in the messaging, and let's just make sure that our professionals are conveying the correct
All
message.
right, so we're not giving it time?
I would give it time. I would say 10 o'clock because that seems more reasonable as far as noise goes and lighting goes for neighbors, anybody around, and that allows for 3 seatings, a 5:30, a 6:45, and a 9 o'clock or whatever. So they can turn their tables over. But I think that this all just happened really quickly, just like we closed really abruptly. We're opening very quickly, so I think there was a lot of unknown when we were just writing this permit, and, or when we were assisting. So I think that, just having more clear details would be helpful for businesses, because I've heard the same as Doug, that people are like, 8 o'clock, some people don't even go out to eat until 8 o'clock, so.
Right. And it's going to be a situation that's going to be compounded by the fact that when the restaurants are allowed to provide indoor seating, it's going to be severely limited.
Oh, absolutely.
And we'll talk about-
We're going to be dealing with this situation
Right.
for a while.
Right. So if you're a restaurateur, you cannot afford to keep that business open unless you can,
Turn the table.
Yeah, and
That's normal.
actually, if, is anyone still in the offices, if they could actually bring that over, because I just want to go through that one more time, because I remember writing it down. I remember we were having
Yeah,
that
no, I
robust
have it
discussion.
in the special use file.
Okay.
that file.
But I do
Okay.
think you should have time limits, and just because
See,
it
I don't even
can't be
think, because most of the
indefinite.
restaurants are already subject to time limits.
Okay, well, if they're already subject to it, that's fine. I just want to be like, oh, you can just stay open until 4 AM, like, you, like, no,
No, they would have to shut down normally, but what about like a final seating so
Yeah.
that they can play out beyond, but,
Right.
don't seat somebody past 10.
Yeah, right.
Is it 9:30, seat them in for
Some obviously with the country clubs are not going to be near any residential neighborhood.
Right.
But, you know,
The only restaurant that I can think that would really back up to
Delicious Heights.
is going to be DH,
Yeah.
Delicious
Right.
Heights. It's backs up to my street, and there's probably, from where they're set up, there may be one house that might be impacted by scene lights.
Yeah, they've actually had Fiddler's expanded. They're going to have outdoor seating outside the banquet.
Fiddler's is using our special use permit,
Yeah.
so. That's great.
I hope they all use our special use permit.
As we said, it's not just the food establishments, it's
Yeah.
actually the golf
Yeah,
courses as well.
They're subject to the
Yeah, and I mean,
regulations.
I told, through the grapevine when it was coming to me, I said, thank you for telling us this. We're not interested in passing rules and ordinances that no one wants, right? We want to pass stuff that's going to help, and they're going to be implemented and used. So all in all, it's a very good thing that we're getting feedback on.
I think their last sitting's 8:30, at least it used to be in normal times,
8:30?
at night.
That's even early, I mean.
They usually want, with staff there, they'll say you can come in at 8:30 or something like that, and then they want you out.
Reminds me when I moved to, so Mimi lived in Bedminster, she had her condo and house in Montclair, and then when we got married, moved out here, and it was like going out to eat at 9 o'clock.
Nothing, even the gas
Where are you
station, when
going?
we first moved.
Kings?
No.
We had a drive, we had a leave.
You can't.
But coming from
There's nothing in
Montclair.
Bedminster,
Yeah.
or Berners, or Burnsville, or
Certainly not
Tewksbury.
far else.
No.
Not,
That was my first experience as well, my first night having moved out of the city to Bedminster. I'm like, is there anything open here past 8 o'clock?
So you guys didn't go to high school around here, did you?
No, no.
I did.
That was fun. You had to go to Morristown to do anything? Or Somerville, maybe?
Martinsville, I think Dairy Queen in Burnsville.
Oh, there was nothing. And the restaurants that were here knew your parents. So if you were there, you got a phone call.
Weren't any lights.
Okay, so while Judy's looking for that, we can go to short-term rentals. No action on that. Engine braking, we're not going to expect to see any action on that. Buckland Park, we're not really going to expect to see any action, but we have not heard any issues coming from Buckland Park from the senior housing. Colin, do you want to give us a quick update on JCP&L outages?
No new updates on outages, although JCP&L indicated that they will be doing line inspections all this week.
Right.
Part of their vegetative management program, so if you see a black helicopter with a red tail that's hovering overhead, rest assured, it's not the black helicopters, or maybe just one that's coming in. They're just making sure that the trees aren't overgrowing the wires, so that will be occurring all during this week. New Jersey American Water, the initial settlement discussion was held on June 2nd. Bevan Moska is representing Bedminster Township, and now by extension, all the other municipalities who have joined us, along with rate council. We all agree that no rate increase is warranted.
So Colin, do you want to, you and I have been working this with Judy a bit on the, getting other municipalities to join in the litigation contesting the New Jersey American Water rate increase. So, Committee meeting, Hickey, what other towns have joined us?
We now have, in addition to obviously Bedminster, who started this thing, Burnsville, Bridgewater, Far Hills, Peapack Gladstone, and Raritan. So we have 5 other municipalities in addition to ourselves.
And we are still waiting to hear, I believe,
From Hillsborough.
Yes,
correct.
And Raritan Township in Hunterdon County.
Yes, correct. And look, this is a great example of shared service. In this case, we're sharing legal counsel, economic expertise, without replicating cost and effort. So, look, I think we're all in this together to prevent a brazen attempt by a third party to basically pick the pockets of our residents. Just in terms of timing, if New Jersey American Water doesn't agree to withdraw their rate increase, there'll be some additional discovery, and they'll be filing a testimony by the interveners and rate counsel. So stay tuned, there's more to come.
So I'm looking at the special use permit for outdoor seating, and the description of the activity is to permit Bedminster restaurants and food establishments to provide service via outdoor seating. The conditions, these restaurants and food services who wish to participate must submit a plan for review by all appropriate township officials with final approval by township engineer. That's it. There is no restriction on time.
Or light.
Or lights, or heat. And those were comments that came to me from Paul, and I rejected them.
Okay, they're being conveyed to the applicant, so if we could just get with Paul on that and get
So
them.
I'll summarize
Straighten
that
out.
tomorrow morning. We'll, with zoning and fire and Paul, and make sure we're
That'd be
seeing
great.
the right message going out from everybody.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So, with participation of those other municipalities, Bedminster and every other municipality that is participating in the opposition to the rate increase by New Jersey American Water, our legal fees are dropping.
Yes.
So the more municipalities we get to participate, and the way that we've set it up is that the legal fees will be divided not based upon population, but based upon the number of
We have a summary.
water customers in each municipality. And Judy, where's,
It should be right on the dais next to your...
oh, that's right, I'm sorry.
So we have estimates based on that allocation.
That's based on
cost.
who's in.
Right now, right.
But
Right.
if Hillsborough and Raritan Township join us,
All these numbers drop.
Yep,
these numbers change significantly.
yep,
And I
yep.
imagine Hillsborough might become the biggest impacted, well, they might get the, I don't want to say the lion's share, but they will be the prime participant in those fees. So we've offered
Well,
this.
I know I ran it as a estimate, and I know Bridgewater dropped below 20.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, look, and they have an incentive to join too, because we're helping defray their costs. So-
Right, exactly.
So hopefully, we expect to hear from Hillsborough and Raritan Township. I believe.
Yeah, Raritan Township called me last week. They're having their meeting on the 30th, but I was basically told we're in. And he and Bridgewater had also spoken to Hillsborough and believed that they were doing the same, although I
right.
had not heard anything directly from
That's right. So
Hillsborough.
when we talk about shared services, and shared services can take the form of whether it's a recreation program, or it's a whole recreation department, or whether it's DPW, or whether it's the shared court, but this is another example of shared services.
Exactly.
And Bedminster is out in front, so great job. So thank you all. So that wraps up the discussion item that Doug raised, and we just went through old business. We do have an executive session, so we will go to Township Committee comments. We'll take a motion to adjourn. We will not be taking action following the executive session. So we will adjourn the meeting after we go through Township Committee comments. So may we start with Township Committee comments with Committeeman Stevenson.
Thank you, Mayor. I do have a comment tonight, and I just wanted to throw this out here to all of you. I mean, we all run for this position, and we are lucky enough to be elected because we want, we're charged with being the stewards of the township and making sure that we're running things and overseeing things. And I don't think anybody could have foreseen what 2020 would bring to us. And as we wind down this and we see, the blood drive and things like that, which is it's outstanding work by the four of you. But I really wanted to highlight Colin's efforts with the pop-up pantry as we close it down. Being elected to the Township Committee doesn't mean you're supposed to be at, Town Hall every day, cleaning donations and organizing food, boxes for folks. And Colin, every single day, you're here answering the bell, and I got to tell you, you and your efforts make all of us look good. And I know you don't do it as, it's a duty or an obligation. You do it because you want to do it and you're willing to do it, and you're leading by example. And I just think that what you've done for the food pantry and showing, the dedication day to day, week to week to week, just incredible. And I thank you for that because, you make us look good, and I know we all pitch in for that, but man, I cannot thank you enough for that. And, the service that you brought to the residents, when you talk about reaching out and touching somebody, it doesn't get any better than that. And man,
the employees are going to miss you.
I'm so you impress me, Colin, and you move me, so I really do appreciate that. And you've proven yourself for the residents in town, and just tremendous job. That's it.
Wow, I can't. What you said, no, look, I did what any of the rest of us would do, was I answered the call, and I'm happy to do that because that's why we're here. And thank you, I really appreciate those very kind comments and sentiment. My only other comment is, primary election day is coming up. You've got your ballots in the mail. Democrat, Republican, fill them out. Exercise your right to vote. It's very important. So just encourage everybody to do just that.
If I could follow up on that, I was on a conference call today with Jerry Majette, who's the Board of Elections, and Steve Peter, who's the Somerset County Clerk, and all the clerks in Somerset County talking about the primary. There will be 5 locations to drop off your vote by mail ballots. They have not been identified yet, simply because the containers that the ballots will be placed in are coming from the state, and until they're delivered and ready to be installed, they didn't want to tell anybody where they might be, because people got their vote by mail ballots in the mail, and they're going to go to those locations, and they're not there yet.
Right.
We are not accepting them here at Town Hall, because that was a question we're getting. All 9 districts and all 9 voting machines will be here on July 7th. We're probably going to have a few in this room, a few out in the lobby.
Will those
based on how many
will all
outlets.
those be provisional?
So how it will work, the poll workers will all be here. There will be a voter list of voters that are qualified or categorized as being either hearing or sight impaired. They will be on a special list. In order to vote on a machine, you need to be on that list. If you're not on that list, you cannot vote on the machine. If you come in and say, I forgot to send in my vote by mail ballot and I just want it on here, you will be given a provisional ballot to fill out here, and we will return them all at the end of the night for all the voters. We will have a significant number of provisional ballots here for the public. But everyone is encouraged to vote by mail.
I think we need to get that information out about the machines, because I've heard a lot of people saying, I don't trust the mail and I'm going to go vote by the machine, because they know they're going to be.
They're going to be turned away. They're going to be handed a provisional ballot, a paper ballot anyway.
To vote by mail, although we have to officially register to vote by mail?
No. So if you haven't received your vote by, they started coming in the mail today.
Okay.
Some people, you're going to get them this week.
Okay.
If you're a registered Republican or a registered Democrat, you will get a vote by mail ballot in the mail this week. If you're an unaffiliated voter, you will get a request form to ask for a vote by mail ballot, if you wish to do so. But then you have to declare that you're either Republican or Democrat, and some unaffiliated voters don't wish to do that. So a lot of unaffiliated voters don't vote in the primary for that reason. So.
I just have a question, because I don't even know. So if we got the ballot in the mail, which I did, and you fill it out and keep it sealed and all that stuff, you have to return it to a bin, or you can just send it in the mail?
You can mail it.
Oh, you can just mail it, okay, it's just like mail in.
You can mail it, but if you prefer to drop it off at one of the locations, you
okay.
can. A lot of people thought they could just bring it here to town hall. No, we're not accepting them here, because there's a chain of custody that has to happen.
So-
We're not doing that.
With every registered voter, especially affiliated, getting the vote by mail. So once you participate in the primary vote by mail, does that mean you have now opted in vote by mail for all subsequent elections?
Not necessarily. This is a special for this primary.
That's where I was going.
Right.
It wouldn't surprise me, though, that that's what will happen.
But not if you don't have to register to vote by mail, then perhaps not.
The decision
I
was
hope
made
not,
for us.
'cause I like
that
it.
You're getting a vote by
Yeah.
mail ballot. You didn't choose to. It's
Right,
coming
it's,
anyway.
right, it's involuntary vote by mail.
Because of that, it's
now.
not, because if you register, ask for a vote by mail ballot, you're
You're
going to
in.
continue to get a vote
Right.
by mail ballot.
Right.
Everyone's getting a vote by mail
Right.
ballot.
Right.
But I think you can opt in if you want to continue to receive vote by
If you
mail.
want to continue, if you liked it and it worked for you, you can continue.
You can do it, but you're not obligated for the fall.
And
Well,
voter
that's
registration.
still your township committee comment, right?
It's all good.
Committeewoman Mareski.
Just to follow up kind of what Doug said, as I look around at everybody sitting on this dais, and as I mentioned to Colin before, everybody does this out of the goodness of their heart. Doug, you take care of our kids with the rec. Colin, you've been fabulous with the food pantry. The mayor has made sure we've got plenty of good food and flowers and fresh air with the farmer's market. Gina took good care of Sergeant Patterson with our blood drive. And I'm just so proud to be a part of you guys. And that's all.
Thank you.
Oh, wait.
Wait, there's more.
Please, on your ballots, fill it out in pen. It says you can use pencil, but please don't do that. Please use a pen. And that's all I have.
Committeewoman Fernandez.
Well, you should know by now, this is my favorite part of the meeting, actually. So I'm kind of, it's funny how great minds think alike, because I was thinking about how, just like we came into this quarantine craziness abruptly in March and everything closed, and now we seem to be opening just as quickly. And I'm a teacher, so when you finish your unit, you have to do a self-reflection. So I wanted to do a little kind of self-reflection on our township and everything that's happened here, and I just made a list, and I kind of said what we did, what we worked on, what you would do differently. That's what you do with your reflections, right? Every time you finish a unit. So first I started with a quote by Paulo Coelho. It's one of my favorite authors, and his quote was, "The world is changed by your example, not your opinion." And right off the bat, March hit, we closed down. I had this newsletter ready to go, and we said, wait, we got to switch this around and start this resource list, right? Like leaders, we took the initiative and just started, and it just kept building and building with hyperlinks, a one-stop shop for people to go to get resources. Other towns used our resource list. I mean, that was pretty impressive that we just stepped up and took the bull by the horns. We also, started this food pantry. Usually, food pantries are run by teams of volunteers. And because of the executive order, it had to be run by staff and committee people. And thanks to the consistent donations by our township residents, we ran what would normally be a full-time job. And thanks to Colin, thanks to Robin, thanks to everyone who helped. That's pretty impressive as well. We ran a free dump day. Everybody that was home and they were cleaning out, doing some spring cleaning, were able to come to the dump and just kind of get rid of what they needed to get rid of. And it was free. They didn't have to pay, so anybody that was a resident could come. We voted unanimously to extend the grace period for our residents for 1 month to pay their property tax, which was left up to the townships to vote and decide on. And we decided, all of us voted yes, we're going to extend that for our residents. We organized a 2-day blood drive, which is actually something they've never done before in the American Red Cross in this area. So in memory of our Sergeant Patterson that passed away, and we collected over 100 pints of blood. We voted to keep our parks open when the government shut down the county parks and the state parks. We put a call into the county board of health, and as soon as they said yes, you can, as long as social distance is adhered to, and we voted again to keep our parks open for our residents. We voted to create a special permit so our businesses could open responsibly and in a timely manner when the time came to open. And we worked for weeks on a budget, and then we came and we adjusted our entire budget to take into account COVID impacts and keeping our taxpayers' best interests in mind. So it's been a cooperative effort, both with the residents, Township Committee, Township staff, and I just want to just say, kudos for being so proactive. I don't think if there was something else we could have done and we thought about it, we would have done it. I think we were extremely proactive, so I just want to kind of reflect on all that's happened in the last 13 weeks, because just as quickly as it came, it's going, it appears. So, and just kudos to everybody, because it was, like I said, a cooperative effort.
And Gina, let's not get lost in the fact, this is your rookie year, okay? I mean, seriously, you were thrown immediately into the fire, and you've just answered the bell, so congrats to you on that, too. That's not something that's easy to do, so.
We can all retire.
You've done all the good work, but that's hard. First year on the job's tough, and it's been a doozy of a year.
It was like, whoa, what happened?
Baptism by fire, well done.
Well said. This is a collaboration. So, I talked about and Doug's participation in making sure that the shared court agreement went through when there was a last-minute hiccup. Doug came in and dealt with it. Whether it's dealing with the issues with condo associations, whether it's putting the blood drive together, whether it's ignoring the advice of our council that perhaps a food pantry may not be consistent with the governor's executive order, and we said, yeah, that's okay.
Call them as I say.
We're going to do it anyway. Thank you, John, but we're going to do a food pantry because we got volunteers that want to help, and we're going to give them an opportunity to do so. So, look, this, just going to say, it's a collaborative effort, and thank you all. We're still not through it. We still have plenty to go. We'll be dealing with COVID for a while and different crises as they come up. But it's great to know that we've got a real team here working for our residents, working for our businesses here. With that, we have a motion to adjourn and go to executive session.
So moved.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, thank you.
Police.
I have to run back.
Be well. All right.
Meet you guys later.
Can we take it 2 minutes? I could run out there.
Call it from the car. You can certainly do that.
I'll be there in a minute.